Hey there, welcome to SharkCast Pod, a podcast dedicated to the greatest sporting club in the history of the world, the mighty Cronulla Sharks. This show is brought to you by Dyson Logistics, the Royal Mighty Yacht Club in Port Hacking, and Jason Halls at Crips and Crips Real Estate. I am Sam Shinazzi, OG 2015. This is our 11th season of podcasting, and for people watching on the YouTube or on our website, sharkcast.com.au, you can see, smile Ben, a smiling Ben Harlum. And Ben is our friend who lives in New York City. He is a former resident of the Shire, grew up in the Shire. His backstory is on previous episodes, but he now works for Sirius FM X. How do I say it, Ben? Just tell me. Sirius.
That's fine. We'll edit it out later. Sirius XM.
There's no editing. Sirius X as that company you work for. But you know Ben from early episodes such as Hey, We're in Las Vegas. Here's Ben.
Yes. With the one episode that has as little football talk as you'd expect from SharkCast. It's the one episode where we didn't talk about football.
Now, we're coming up to, believe it or not, Ben, 600 episodes on SharkCast. We're about 10 away, I think.
Wow.
I'm going to say this is like one of my worst intros ever, and I apologize. It's nothing to do with you. It's a me thing. I've got my coffee here from Mr. Paisley's. It's trying to perk me up. I'm perked up. I'm ready to go. Ben Harlum, how are you, my friend? What's going on?
I'm really good, Sam. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure.
I always appreciate the invite. Lots to talk about. And yeah, let's do it. Let's perk you up with your coffee. I've got some Coke Zero here because it's, 12 hours difference here in New York. Like, let's talk Sharks.
All right. There's a lot to talk about. On the weekend, it didn't go so well. We got humiliated. We got humbled. We got smoked by a very depleted Roosters team. Still had some great players in there, but the fellas that came in did their job more than our guys, unfortunately. Very disappointing result, disappointing performance, which I think is more the important story. And I was a bit surprised because, as you know, Ben, I get to hang out within the club sometimes during the week, and I see the way they train and the way that they're acting and everything was kosher. Everything was on the way to a victory in the sense of hard work. They weren't taking them lightly. All the things that we've heard throughout the last few days from Sharks fans about what they did and didn't do correctly. There was no sign from what I saw that they were going to just lay down, which they kind of did. That's what disappointed me the most. And also, I think during the game, just not adapting to what was going on. They had a brief comeback from 14-0 to 14-6, but we're never really in it. Give me some of your initial reactions to what you saw go down in Gosford, please.
It's really interesting, right? Like, it's weird. We're so used to, like, 10 years ago, that real famous game against the Roosters where we were down, 24-0 or something at halftime and then came back. And, like, Roosters were just the premiers the year before, or, like, in that sort of realm, right? And we were near the bottom and eventually would get the wooden spoon in 2014, if I remember correctly. It's funny to be on the opposite end of that, right? Like, now we've got the plucky upstarts, the Tigers, the Roosters that, we're expected to win and win handily. And then we're the ones that get ambushed. It's funny to be on the opposite side of that. I mean, look, I put my level-headed hat on and I think, look, this is probably the closest NRL season that we've seen probably since 98, like since the NRL has been around. Like, we're seeing Dragons beat Melbourne, we're seeing Penrith at the bottom of the ladder, we're seeing all types of crazy stuff happening, like, apart from really Newcastle, who is crapping the bed. Like, any team can beat any other team on their day, which is great if you want to watch, like, competitive rugby league and enjoy it. And this is just a byproduct of it, right? So that's my level-headed hat where I go, look, this is happening to every other club. It's not just happening to us. Everybody is just as disappointed if you're a supporter of another team, if you're losing to other sides. From a Sharks perspective, it's funny, like, up until 2 weeks ago, probably the Storm game quietened all of our talk about, look how much travel we've gone through. It's been so unfair. We haven't had the bye yet. How good that we've got it coming up. And then that sort of quietened down in the last 2 weeks. And then finally, you almost see it on the field where it's like, these guys, they know the bye is next week. They've just had this huge emotional win against the Storm that not many people expected. I mean, you were more positive about it than Kieran was, and I sort of agreed with Kieran at the time about, how it was going to go. And then look, what a great performance. And then the inevitable downswing comes from it. It's hard to work out whether to be super disappointed, which I've seen on social media, on the message boards, that sort of on Reddit, the general sort of feedback from Sharks fans, where it's like, oh, here we go. Or do you buy into look, they've traveled everywhere. They've only just came back to Sydney after however many weeks on the road. They could see the bye in their, in the vision ahead. Honestly, it's a weird one to try and compute because I don't know which direction to go in. I don't know how to pack the loss in a neat little box and tie the bow, where normally I like to think that I'm pretty good at going, well, XYZ happened. Do you lean into the fact that we're not a full strength Shark side, we've got injuries? Or do you go, that's not an excuse because we just beat the Storm and we were supposed to just run through the middle of this Roosters team, and they came to play. And then after the 2 tries in the first 15 minutes, not that I wouldn't say we gave up, but it was like we're just running uphill. Do you blame the referee? No set restarts. It felt like, I think I was counting because no one got a set restart in the last 50 minutes of the previous game. Then it was another half an hour before anyone got a set restart in this game. But like lots of penalties and lots of real subjective penalties. Do you blame the ref and go, oh well, he got them upfield for that first half an hour? I honestly, it is probably the most puzzling loss from a Sharks side that I can think of in a while.
So out of all that, which I completely hear and understand, which way are you leaning, or you're not sure?
I'm not sure. I would like to think this is glass half full, Ben, which is normally my level-headed approach to Sharks games. I think the general sentiment I see from certain people on message boards and on social media is, look, after 2016, everything is kosher. Let's really sort of look at the positives here. It's very tough sometimes. I would like to think that, is this the loss that was coming because of all the travel, because of how we limped our way to the bye? What a great time to get the bye. And honestly, is that the loss we had to have? Who is coming in and going, look, okay, you now have to linger on this for 2 weeks until we play the Warriors. Like, there's no escaping this. Like, you have to think about this for the next 2 weeks. I don't know if that's happening, but I would like to think that, okay, there's still a long way to go and it's a very close season. And you know what? Ask me again 15 minutes into the Warriors game and we'll see what the reaction is like.
Yeah, I don't think it's season defining, aside from where we may finish in the last round. So take the points out of the situation, out of the argument. I don't think it's season defining. I don't think it's something that we need to lose sleep over. But when you are asking all those questions going, what if, so most of them I'm saying yes, we should have beaten this team even with the injuries we have, given the injuries and rep players they have. Given the fact we've come off this emotional high against a great team with one of the great wins in Sharks history in the last 15 years, I personally naively see no reason to not keep going with that and get the win. And then you've got the 2 weeks off and you're sitting pretty in the top 4. Everyone's talking about the great run you're on and you're feeling confident. I don't know why teams, and I'll say our team in this example, can't go from the emotional high and ride the wave into the next game 7 days later. We're talking about professional athletes, professional club, professional coaches. They're all pretty good at what they do. I wholeheartedly believe they didn't take them lightly. I would say almost I know for a fact they didn't take them lightly, but I do think that there was a bit of an eye on the bye, just even subconsciously, which is perfectly normal and a human trait. Got to get through this, go see the family up the coast or whatever for 2 weeks. Great times. But they just came up against the wrong team, I think. Like, as soon as I saw Tedesco wriggling out tackles with the energy he's got, I was like, oh, man, this is going to be tough. But, yeah, that's where I sort of lean, man. I think that it was a very winnable game, and they just, for whatever reason, there was just no energy, no enthusiasm. I don't know. As soon as they sort of ran out, it was just not happening. And that happens. I get it. You can't be perfect every week. I get it. I just thought it was the wrong time to have that kind of performance.
Yeah. It's one of those where like you'd just love to say, look, how we started against Melbourne, let's just duplicate that. Like let's get up for it. Let's just keep going. As you said, ride that wave of the win. And you look at Melbourne and you go, oh no, like this is just a general example, but like, oh no, we're facing Melbourne after they just, lost. So you know that Bellamy is on their ass and they're going to come out firing. Like that's the beautiful thing about Melbourne, is that you just know that after something goes wrong or Bellamy is really angry about their performance, even if they win in a real sloppy way, you know they're going to come out firing the next week. And we don't have that at the moment, where you go, oh, they're going to learn. They'll learn the lesson. Like they're going to come out against the Warriors and they're just going to absolutely smoke them because they're back at home. They've had 2 weeks rest. Warriors have a tough game in between. It's very hard to know what to expect at the moment. That's probably my sort of top line thought of the season so far.
Now, we will talk State of Origin because I've got questions for you about State of Origin, and people will be surprised I want to raise that on this show, but I definitely want to talk to you about State of Origin. But one of the, I guess, reasons people have been throwing around in some circles has been we're not at that next level, so the Penrith, Melbourne level, because we don't have enough Origin rep players who are at that next level as well. And they can adjust week to week. They can lift every week. They can lift up under any circumstance. And I kind of shrugged that one off for a while. But now it's sort of lingering around my brain a bit. Do you buy into that at all, that the fact that our guys are still not at that level, like we don't have one player this first game at least, who's in that elite level? Do you think that has any bearing on performances like last week, where they can't either come out and smash them or change their game plan, change their mindset mid-game and go, hey guys, it's not working. Let's do this. Follow me. Do you buy into that at all?
The old Riccio stat.
Riccio stat, yeah.
I can't make fun of Riccio because he was very upset this week that I was. I tweeted a lot about Michael Chammas on 100% Footy on Monday night, and obviously rivalry there, not just between Chammas and Gould, but because he doesn't work for the same organization that our friend Dave works for. He wasn't very happy that I was very pro Chammas. So I need to stick to being pro Riccio for the next week and a half, just because I don't want to upset anybody. But that is the Riccio stat. It's an interesting one. And I think that it only tells half the story, because the asterisk straight away goes to, oh, well, except for 2014 and Souths. And like, look at the side that Souths had, like who was their like number one main leader there? And it's like Sam Burgess. He doesn't play Origin because he's like a rep player for England. And then Manly 08, and you look at that side and you go, oh, well, I mean, like, they dominated Melbourne in that grand final and they didn't have 5 Origin players, but they had like a star-studded side from top to bottom if you really look at it. And you look at our side and, okay, well, how many New Zealand or Tongan or Samoan reps do we have on the side? Like, Fanua Blake, Nickera, Ronaldo is there. Katoa gets a run if he's healthy. Like that's just off the top of my head, thinking about like the non-origin rep players. You could skew the stat as much as you want. I don't buy into that one because we have enough. The team has been together long enough, and we have enough high-quality rep players that we should be able to, as you said, change the mindset halfway through the game. We should be able to adjust on the fly or ride the wave. I'll continue with your analogy from that big win against the Storm into the Roosters game. I don't buy into the origin stat, none whatsoever.
Well, in that case, who do we need to look to change the game plan, change the mindset? Like I saw a huddle at some point and I was pretty excited. I think Cam McGuinness led the huddle, I think after the second try maybe, or when they went for a penalty goal, something like that. Whatever, and it's only one game, so I'm only pinpointing one game. I'm not suggesting it's like seasons on end. It's one game we're talking about, but maybe I guess the words didn't get through. I don't know. Maybe it's just one of those things. But I just thought it was interesting that no one really stepped up, aside from Fanua Blake, of course. He was unbelievable. But no one really stepped up and said, we got this, just chill.
Yeah, like even if it wasn't just, someone talking in the huddle, but like someone being like, no, I'm just going to take this team on my back and let's just go for it. And like that can be so many things. It can be like Trindle kicking us out of trouble if we're like right up on, the 20 or 40 meter line when we're finishing a set. It could just be really good defense. And at the end of the day, it just needs to be holding onto the ball, because we had at least 3 opportunities I can just think of off the top of my head where if we just hold on to a pass and we don't just make a stupid error or give away a penalty or a sticks again on the last tackle, and like apart from the defensive suggestion example I just gave you, like the drop balls, like there's at least 2 or 3 tries that are in there if we just hold on to the ball. So it's tough, because it's like, is it something that needs to be said halfway through the game? Are we missing that one voice that maybe like Dale was giving us before he retired last year? Like, can Cam only say so much? Is it Nico and Braden that need to really step up? Like, are we missing Teague? Because it felt like that last year near the end of the year, he was sort of stepping up and talking a bit more and being a bit more vocal, and people, at least from what I could see, were pointing at him as like, well, he's going to be a future captain because look at him, he's stepping up. Is it Ronaldo? Like, he likes to be very chirpy and talk in the huddles from what I see on the coverage as well. I don't know, like, is it someone like, is it Holdsworth coming in? Like, do we need to hire Maloney to come back and just come in and be like, guys, just effing forget it. Like, let's just do it. Like, do we need Jimmy out there, Sam, like Alfie Langer with the Broncos and just coaching them? Like, do we need a third half on the field? Just being like, let's kick it.
I think about that a lot because at least at the home games, usually where we sit, we've got a good aerial view, and I mean, I don't have a stat on it. It's just an eye test, but it looks like out of all the teams, we probably have the trainers out there a lot less than the guys who have them out there a lot more. For example, the old Alan Langer he's out there for every play. Penrith have their guys out there a lot. And I don't like that. Like, as a fan, I'm like, just let them play. Like, I don't want them to be robots. Let them play. And I actually think there should be some sort of rule. Like, if we're attacking, the guy's not allowed to, or even, actually, you know what? I've got a rule saying unless someone's injured or really needs some water, we don't need them out there. However, some of the more successful teams in recent memory have them out there like all the time, chirping and barking and reminding. And I sometimes wonder about that from our point of view. It's not a massive deal. I'm just something topical. But on the point about them being tired, Ben, from traveling and wear and tear, I absolutely can buy into that. Also, the fact that they had an absolute battle last week. Like, it was physical, it was amazing, resilient. They came back, they let them in, they didn't go away. It was awesome. I understand that in the heat of the moment, against the Roosters, they may have just not had the mental and physical energy to get it together. I understand that. It doesn't take away that it's disappointing, but that could very well be a reason. Like we'll never know, right? We'll never know the reason why it happened. When do you think we stop talking about the travel though? Is it now? We've had the week off with the buys. When can we stop? Yeah.
Now is when we stop. We should have stopped last week after winning against the Storm. That should have been, look, we're back. We don't leave Sydney except for 2 times, and I'm not really including like Newcastle and Gosford for that. Like we don't leave the general area except for a Brisbane and a Melbourne road trip, and like we should be up for those two specifically. Travel talk stops now because everybody has traveled. Or the Warriors travel every second week. Penrith are about to last on the ladder. They've got 4 or 5 of their team going to Perth for Origin, and then I think they have to. Then their next game, I think they're up against the Warriors. So then they have to somehow get to New Zealand if they're going to keep playing, which you can't get a direct flight from Perth to Auckland. Like travel talk is dead. This is now where we stop. We can't talk about travel anymore. In fact, we need to be talking about the benefit of the fact that we don't leave the general Sydney area except for 2 times for the rest of the season.
And I think they definitely get a pass mark at this point for not only the season, but also the travel. If you just look at the travel, they definitely get a pass mark because I think a lot of people thought it'd be a lot worse. Now, it could have been a lot better with particularly the Raiders and West Tigers games. If they were in the wins column for us, we'd be flying. But I think it's a pass at least, right?
Yeah, I think so. And one of the main worries that a lot of the more cynical fans had before Vegas was, well, look what happened to the 2 teams that lost in Vegas last year. They both went on losing streaks and they both lost their coaches. And it's like, oh, well, they're gonna start the season against Penrith, but then they're gonna have to do this huge big travel thing. You don't want them to get overawed and then they go and have to take on, the best team in the comp for the last 4 or 5 years. So I think it's at this stage, it's a pass mark. I can't see it any other way because the big travel that we've done to Perth, to Townsville, like we tick the box. Tick. It was only just short trips to Leichhardt and to Canberra that we sort of didn't really come good there. The only times, and Sam, correct me, the only time so far this season I really feel like that it's been like a lost cause was Bulldogs and Roosters. I feel like that every other game we've been in it, we've been a centimeter off at times, and then we've had really good wins as well.
And the Bulldogs game, don't forget, we were right in it until the second half. Like it was close up until half time. So that wasn't a disaster. It was a 14-point loss. It felt like more in that second half. Definitely out enthused, but that wasn't disastrous, So the Roosters, I think that's why the Roosters one stings so much because it was like, this isn't happening.
Yeah, but again, it's just that we used to be the plucky underdog that used to get that upset and win. Yeah. And now we're the ones that are supposed to be expected to win. That's why it's tough.
Now, a tiny bit of Origin talk.
Okay.
And I've got somewhere where I'm going with it. Now, you're an Origin guy. I know this for a fact, which is awesome. Tell me about growing up watching Origin. Why are you an Origin guy? Why do you love the Blues so much?
Quite simply because up until 2016, it was the only time where you could have your team, like you could support the team that won. Like I know that obviously Queensland won a very lot of times when I was just getting out of high school. But yeah, like Sharks were disappointing and hadn't won, but Origin time, well then it's a 50-50 shot, and Blues like were great and have been, right in it for a lot of that time, right? I love Origin. I roll my eyes at people that go, oh yes, it's the exhibition game coming up. How great. Yes, like you. I think that I love Origin. I love the women's Origin. I'm
Yeah.
right up for it. I think that it's just the best. It's so good. I prefer
Now, just so I can clarify, just so I can backstroke out of here.
Yeah, you pointed at yourself, so don't think I threw you under the bus. You threw yourself under the bus.
I say it most weeks. Grew up loving Origin, grew up loving it.
Yeah,
absolutely adoring it. And I still to this day love the concept. Best of the best. I love it. I think it's great. And I love the fact that it's ultra competitive, unlike other sports around the world where sometimes it's the best of the best and it's literally an exhibition match.
And that is the one selling point in America. Sorry to interrupt, but when I say you've just got to watch it, it's the All-Star game, but everyone takes it seriously.
Yes. So I love that. And even though I call it exhibition games just to rile people like you up, I absolutely concede that it's a battle out there. It's the W word. It's for real. It's legit. They don't like each other, and that's you're always going to get great competition out of a situation like that. So I love it, and I love that aspect of it. And to this day, I've never missed an Origin since I was, I don't know, 7 years old. I love it. I'm looking forward to tonight. But no one will ever talk me out of the fact that it's the wrong time of the year, or the competition should stop for 6 weeks or 5 weeks, however you want to cram it in. And I'm not raising it for that debate. That's a debate that I've had every year. People can go back, listen to all episodes. That's my only thing is it wrecks the comp. Everything else is fine. I love the fact that my players get to get more money for their families and for their lives. I love the fact that their profile rises. They can talk about it in 30 years' time at the reunions. I love all that stuff. The one thing I don't like is that it wrecks the comp, and no one will ever talk me around that. Watching Canterbury the other day lose to the Titans by 40 points, I'm guessing if their players were there, they probably would have won by 18. You know what I mean? That's just a close example. Anyway, I just wanted to backtrack off that because I really don't like the fact that it does that to the comp. I like everything else about it. How do you feel this year with the fact that the Sharks have no one, and I'd say not even anyone close to being selected, even though we're coming fifth, we're 7-5, we've had a pretty good season. Do you think it's just kind of where the club's at? Is it circumstance? Is it factual? Is it a mistake by the Blues team? Would you have anyone in there? How does it make you feel as a Sharks fan, aside from happy that they don't miss a game? What do you genuinely feel, though?
I was more angry is probably too harsh of a word, but I'll just go with it, Sam. I was more angry in 2016 because I remember growing up and whoever won the grand final that year, the majority of their players would make the Australian run-on side. It was a real sort of, you play really good at Origin, sure, that's the selection into the Australian tour at the end of the year. But if you won the grand final, at the very least, your halves or the star fullback or, the forward pack would get a real run. I remember looking at the side that that went to where I don't think it was the World Cup, that was 2017, but whatever Australian games were after 2016, I remember thinking, we won the bloody comp, and you're not picking this player or this player or this player. I remember just being really what are you doing? My thoughts on Mal Meninga and his coaching skills and his suitability for the Perth job is probably more appropriate for another podcast than a Sharks podcast. But look, it's the harsh truth that I'd love to see Ronnie, as much as I don't like Queensland, I'd love to be on the other side of it and just hate him. I used to hate that Matt Rogers would kick goals from all over the field. Only I used to hate it 3 times a year, and that would be it. Be the biggest Matt Rogers fan ever. But when he'd play for Queensland, it'd be oh, he's going to kick this goal from the sideline just because he's so bloody good. And you'd hate it. I'd love to boo Ronnie as he runs out, in Perth or in Sydney, because he's an Origin player that's so good, but he's just not eligible. So it is what it is. Right. So either the players aren't eligible or they're just not up to scratch compared to maybe there was an argument last year that that Jesse probably should have been considered over some of the other centers in the comp, but this year Like, we've got so many options at center that we could pick for the Blues that unfortunately he just isn't eligible there. Not eligible, sorry. He just isn't playing to the standard of the others.
And I think that's completely true. What do you think about McInnes, for example? Is he harshly...
He's probably... Well, it was harsh that he got dropped last year, and I think that even Maguire sort of understood that because he kept him on, and like he was still at the games and was like on the bench, even though he wasn't like suiting up or whatever. I felt like that he's the closest thing that we've got to someone that really could just bang out 80 minutes and play any position that you really need him to. He's probably the closest that we've got. I know that occasionally people have the argument that Brayley is just very close there, and that's an interesting one as well. But yeah, McInnes is probably the closest that we have. But then look at the forward pack and the people that we're not picking for New South Wales. It's very hard to justify anybody on the Sharks team getting an Origin run out of the ones that are eligible.
Do you think if he was a Queenslander, Cam McInnes would be picked?
That's an interesting one. Maybe. I would say that they probably would have stuck with him after game one last year and kept him in the side. I don't think they would have dropped him after one game.
He just seems the sort of guy that was kind of born for it, right?
Yeah, you just look at him, you look at the effort that he puts in, and you go, yeah, like that's an Origin player there.
Yeah,
like he's the closest thing, and I wouldn't even say that he's like the best Sharks player on the park from week to week. Like I'd love to see more injection of Talakai at lock and see how we can sort of maneuver that to get him more minutes, or how do we, like the whole Atkinson coming in, like that's another topic for probably later as well, Sam. So I wouldn't even say that Cam is like a 10 out of 10, the best player on the park. When you get that email, and if we lose and we roll our eyes because it's the vote on the man of the match from the game that we just lost, I'm not thinking of Cam every week, but in an Origin filter, you go, that's someone that you can rely on, because that's what you need at Origin.
I'm super stoked that we're not missing anyone. Like I think it'll be beneficial over the run.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I was hoping that the Roosters game would be the run starting then, but it'll have to be the Warriors game, that's fine. We can live with that. On the email coming to you and I and everyone else, the man of the match, player of the match, we should point out to the people who do scoff at that is a commitment, a sponsorship commitment the club has made, and they kind of have to do it. They know the remarks they're going to get.
Totally. Yes, it is a sponsorship commitment, and is a scheduled email that needs to go out. But I do chuckle at it when it does arrive after a loss.
Brutal.
As I'm sure everybody within the club also has a bit of a chuckle when they have to send it.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to give a bit of a shout out here, Ben, to our friends at the Royal Motor Yacht Club. They have an awesome restaurant called The Galley, the Royal Motor Yacht Club in Port Hacking, I should point out. And nights like Origin night, made for clubs like this. Go out to the Royal Motor Yacht Club in Port Hacking. You don't need to be a member these days. You can be one, which they encourage and we encourage. But great for nights like tonight, Origin. You can have a meal, you can have a drink, and SharkCast get down there whenever we can. It's a great place to be. The views are amazing. And if you want to get in touch with them, 9523-9300. They have a website, rmycph.com.au, and you can tell them that SharkCast sent you. That is that. I'm just looking at my screenshots, and for some reason, Dan Atkinson's in my screenshots.
Okay.
I know why. I'm in the SharkCast pod, like part of my phone. Dan Atkinson, talk to me about him. What's going on? Happy, indifferent, sad?
I feel bad for him, because the one time that we go, okay, we don't need him on the bench anymore, let's just put him at 18th man, is the one time that we will desperately need him, and we'll all eat our words. But I just, I don't see it. I feel like we already have great utility value from a Talakai, from McInnes, from Brayley. Like there are so many options around. Like Teague when he comes back, or Nickera. Like there's so many moving parts already that there are so many great players that can fill different roles if we need to. I just don't think we're just not getting the origin. It is essentially an Origin Queensland style 14 where when everybody gets tired, let's roll out Dan and let's get him in the middle and he can run at some tired forwards and really pick up the pace. And it's just not happening. And I feel bad for him because he's been given like an impossible role. Here you go, fill in on the wing, go over, switch spaces now, go into the centers, go to the other side of the field. Now you're playing lock. Now, I mean, in the Tigers game, we probably should have got him to kick a couple field goals and see how he went. But in terms of the makeup of the team at the moment, especially with the limited amount of minutes, as I said, that we're giving Talakai and a couple of the others that are coming off the bench, I can't see it moving forward. I think that we need to, once we get some more healthy players in, and like I've listened to you have a chat to Josh and Kieran and even Dan in the post shows, and like there's arguments of how can you keep Billy Burns out of the side, like when Teague comes back. And there's other examples of that too, of Jesse Colhoun and like I can't see a place where Dan fits in for the second half of the season, unfortunately, because he gave some really great moments last year. But yeah, I feel like there's better value in the Jessies, in the Billies, more minutes for Sifa, than what we can do with Dan at the moment. It's a bit frustrating because he should have a bit of an impact if the game plan is right, but it's just for whatever reason what we want out of him isn't working. Do you agree? Do you see the same thing?
I do. I pretty much completely agree. I guess for me, I look at the team we have, and one of Fitzgibbon's, I don't know if it's like the way he set it up, it's just how it's ended up being, is that there's a lot of players who can play different positions.
Yep.
So I kind of think that we should be good enough at adjusting to things where we don't need a specialist guy on the bench to fill that role. So in other words, Will Kennedy goes down. Well, the plan actually is Nico Hines goes to fullback in game. So I'm not talking pre-game or picked on a Tuesday, but in game. So that happens. And Talakai can play center. He can play middle. He can play edge forward. So that's kind of good. And Billy Burns can kind of slot into a lot of the edge positions, also center. Like they can all move around is my point. I don't think you necessarily need Atkinson there to do that. Now, as far as halves go, if the halves go down, well, we've seen Blake Brayley and Cam McInnes kind of fill that role. So I kind of don't think it's necessary. But every time that happens, we see, he comes on the wing and he helps us out, or he's very helpful. It's a tough one. But I personally wouldn't be doing it.
No, I think that if we were winning games and everyone, and there were limited minutes and we really almost were only playing with 16 players and that extra spot was just like, look, we barely need him, but we're just going to have it there just in the off chance that we need him. More power to us. We'll keep him on there. But with the limited amount of minutes that the bench and certain other players are getting, I think that's it's a missed opportunity. I hope that there's a couple of tweaks for the next couple of games. I do hope so, especially once all the help, once Ronnie gets back, once Katoa gets back, once Sam gets back, once that Teague gets back, the healthy players come in. I'm hoping that it's more of a selection dilemma in terms of we have way too many people and we need to try and fit them in there.
It very well could be that. Now, Benny, you've got one eye on the NBA coming up. Do you want to stick around and do some mail with us?
Oh, I will stick around and do, as long as I'm not stinking up the joint here, Sam, I will stay as long as you want.
It's not possible, is what I'm going to say. That'd be great. So we'll get through some mail. There's a bit in here. We'll fly through it as best we can without being disrespectful to the people who write into us, because we love and adore those people.
Absolutely. This is all
And
fun banter, even if you disagree with our opinion or we disagree with you.
Yeah. And believe it or not, I haven't read most of it. So bear with me on that, and also keep that with your thoughts. But this first one's from Matt. And Matt says, apologize if it's old news by the time you read it. What are your thoughts on James Maloney's comments regarding Shane Flanagan as coach? Being Jimmy, it's hard to know when to take him seriously or when he's having a laugh. Great season to date. Appreciate all the content. That's from Matt. So thanks for that, Matt. You're aware of this situation, Ben, and anyone who's not is living under some sort of clouded area. But I think a week or so ago, Jimmy was at a live function, one of those things where you sit around and have the microphones and a couple of beers and you talk. And he mentioned, someone said, who's your best coaches? And he listed them all in order and didn't mention Shane Flanagan, and then said a few things which you can go look up. What was your take on that? Do you think he was being completely serious, or?
I think, as Matt said, with Jimmy, you got to take things. There's at least a bit of a percentage there where he's taking the mickey there. And the fact that when Danny Weidler wrote an article about it and followed up on it, he sort of doubled down on it. He didn't shy away from it. He did make a joke of, well, if you want the full story, you can pay me for another sportsman's lunch and I'll give you even more. There's still a tiny bit of joking there, but we could all see that in 2017 that relationship was very fractured. Chad got an upgrade. Jimmy was asking for more. He wasn't getting it. He wasn't impressed with it. And it sort of seeped into the field. Like that Cowboys elimination final game is sort of the culmination of a lot of frustrations. He gets into the sin bin, gives away a couple of penalties. It's not the best performance by a lot of players on the side. But I think the majority of it is in truth there. I think that he would look back and go, we had Barber, we had me, Jimmy, we had Gal, we had Wade, we had Luke, we had Mick Ennis. Like, I bet that the majority of that is doused in truth, which is just great for the reunion next year, Sam. It's going to be nice and friendly.
I tend to agree. And again, I say this from a blessed life that I have lived. In 2016, Adam Newman and myself were allowed to be around that group a lot, like probably way more than we should have. And we saw things, and it was nothing like controversial, it was nothing confrontational. But as you said, those big personalities who at that time had played so many games in so many different situations, they definitely had a say in how training went, the plays they ran. And it's not to say that they didn't listen to the coach, because they did. And it's not to say the coach didn't have his way, because he did. But there is definitely truth in that James Maloney had a large say in how they played, especially in attack. And why wouldn't you? Because he's an attacking genius. He'd already done a bunch of great things in his career. And you saw the way that we played under him. It was fantastic. So there is definitely truth there. Obviously, there's some sort of personality clash between the two, and he's going to bring it up whenever he can, have little digs. And Flano's a very grown-up man, and he can handle it, and he'll dig back. Don't worry about that.
Yep,
and the reunion's going to be awesome. But there's definitely truth there. Definitely truth. And even things like, special plays in the grand final and the way they trained and the infamous captain's run, the players all had a big say in how that went down, how they reacted. So I will say this for Flano, though, he was the one making the call to take Chad off in the Canberra game. And just as an example, there's great coaching moments from him. So we don't want to talk Flano down, but if you think that our senior staff didn't have a way, our senior players didn't have a way, and we ran, well, they absolutely did. I mean, Paul Gallen is a great example. He probably had the loudest voice out of all of them, way louder than Jimmy.
He was the trainer that was pointing, saying, fourth tackle, I'm going to do my hit up now. And that just goes back to what we said earlier, where we're looking at the players in the huddle and, is the right message coming from the right person? Whereas back in 2016, it was like, well, Gal went down for the Canberra game, and then Wade knocked himself out, right? Yep. And it's like, well, that was fun because we still had Jimmy and we still had Luke and we still had Ennis that could step up and be the leader and be a believable leader, where the rest of the players aren't going, oh yeah, all right, mate. Like, that was the amazing thing, is that you could lose those players during Origin time or through injury or whatever, and you had big experienced players that could put the message out there.
There's great examples of Mick Ennis in his last year, just taking control of certain players and telling them what he needed and when he needed it, and pulling them in when they weren't doing the right thing on or off the field. So, and that's what it took. It took all those things for us to do the unthinkable. So thank goodness it all went down. Next up, we have DB. DB says, out-coached, out-enthused, outplayed. An ordinary performance across the board. I thought he said everyone but Talakai. He said Nikora and Aramian have been poor for a month. And he's also critical of the Atkinson role. And he's finished off saying not great. So Nikora and Aramian, Ben, talk to us about their recent form.
Yeah, I don't. Ramian hasn't been good for a while, even though you also, again, level-headed Ben, could argue, well, look at the chopping and changing in the backs, and lots of stuff going on. It's very hard to trust if you've got a new person on your outside that's still coming up to speed, and then if they're getting injured, you've got another new person that you need to try and trust. That's, again, level-headed Ben. Nikora has been a real disappointment. It's been you can see the disappointment in his eyes when he drops his second ball, or he tries to put Nico in space and Nico drops it, I don't know what's happening there. I would agree with DB and say that he has been disappointing, but he normally comes back and fires quite hard after a couple of disappointing performances. So I have no doubt that Nico is going to be up for the Warriors game. I hope, but I would agree. It's been disappointing from those two.
I would have to think Jesse Ramian was not at 100%. He barely looked like. I don't want to make light of the eye injury, but it looked like it kind of affected him. Like he wasn't doing much.
Mick Ennis said that he was one of our best against the Storm.
Yeah, that was. I can't believe that hasn't got more attention than it. I heard that too, and I went, "What? He was off." Yeah, I heard that.
He almost had a detached retina, for goodness sake. He was poked in the eye. What's going on, Mick?
That was after 10 minutes or whatever too. So, but I genuinely thought he was obviously way off the pace against the Roosters, but I felt like it must have still been affecting him.
Totally. And you know what? Good on him, because our depth in the backs is low, and he obviously, if that's the case, he gritted it out. I get it. Hard to bring Hiroti back and then also blood a rookie and bring them onto the side, considering how low our stocks are. But yeah, again, someone who will be good for the break, I think.
All right, Corey says, I don't really know where to start. After a great performance 1 week ago, there's no excuses for this performance. He says Hiroti definitely didn't look 100%. And I think he's referring to, being out-leapt 2 times, especially the first time he couldn't even get off the ground. So I don't have any intel on that. But, I agree. He didn't look fantastic. A lot of people were calling for young Chris Viola to debut on the wing, but he was overlooked for Hiroti. That's mistake number 1 by the coach. Number 2, Ramian was cleared to play. I realize injuries we have in the back line, but his form hasn't been good. I would have put Talakai in the centers, or even Chris Viola. That's mistake number 2 by the coach. Number 3, we know the Chooks come out firing hard and taking it to the opposition, but we let them get on top of us. And also giving Atkinson 14 minutes did absolutely nothing. On the bench, that's a mistake number 3 by the coach for Corey. Sorry. It seems the players went out there thinking it was going to be an easy win with one eye on the bye. Not a fan of the spine either on the night. I'm hearing Sione is back after the bye. I wouldn't be putting him in until he gets some New South Wales Cup time. And there's a few other great things here from Corey. Hoping after the bye, the coach gets it right and bloods a couple of young guys while he can. Up, have a good stress-free week with no Sharks this week. Bye. That's from Corey. Thanks, Corey, for all that. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Corey.
I mean, we covered a lot of that in the last bit of mail, Corey, but he's sort of not happy with the coach there. How do you think the coach is going, Ben?
I think that up until the Storm game, the criticism would have been quite realistic in terms of sticks to the process, and it's 20 minutes, so let's do the bench. Like there is a real sentiment of sticks to what he knows and doesn't adjust on the fly. Then we see in the Storm game that he was sort of, as you mentioned, because of your position, you can see where you sit, Sam, like the moving pieces, like a battleship sort of game, back and forth. So that's why a lot of people were excited after the game. Was like, oh, great. We really had to adapt and we found the right pieces to put in the right place, and we sort of still changed on the fly. And then it got back to the Roosters game, and it was like, okay, I'm not really inspired by what's going on. My only worry is, and I don't read into I wish he was angry in press conferences, because look, it is what it is. Like in my world, in radio, like I'll yell at my host if something goes terribly wrong, and luckily not many things go terribly wrong on a radio show. It's not brain surgery. But if my boss asks me about, that was a real mess of an interview that you did this morning, what happened there, I'll be very, it was fine, they just didn't bring the right energy, and we'll be better for it, and we'll do it. Like, I'm very Craig Fitzgibbon there, like, you don't give too much away or whatever. What I would like to see, and we won't get this insight at the moment, is like, who is the person that fires up? Is it him? Is it Price? Is it Hannay? Is it Holdsworth? Is it Noakesy? Who walks in and is like, listen up, it's not good enough. Like, we've got the Warriors coming up, and Ben on the SharkCast, even though Sam didn't believe him, said it was a danger game because it was Sean Johnson's last game, and look what they did in the second half. We're going to all sit down and we're going to watch it, and we're going to fire up because it's not good enough. Like, who is the person that comes in and gives that speech? Is Fitzy good for that? And we just don't see that, and we don't know, and we're not told about it. Is it someone else on the coaching staff? That's more what I'd love to know about the coach and the coaching staff, is like, who is the one that like kicks their ass and isn't just like, all right, we'll get him next time, guys, it's all good.
Yeah, I don't think it's that mellow in there, Benny, and you've been in the sheds as well. I mean, you saw Fitzgibbon's press conference. It was his quickest one ever. That said a lot.
And what I will say that I did notice was interesting, and it was after the Storm game, was they all sung the team song, and then you saw Mooney and Fafita all say, phones off, everybody's phones off, and that was it for the footage from anybody. The like people that were in there, friends and family, or the official sort of footage, it was phones off. We don't see what happened. Is it Fafita giving like the word?
I can't say what it is. I'll say that you'll probably find out in the next month, but it's nothing what you're hinting at, unfortunately.
Sure. And like,
it's lighter, a lot lighter.
Okay, great. And after the Storm game, like, that's not the time that you're going to do that sort of thing. But I did see a bit of that, and I was like, oh, well, maybe phones off after a loss like the Roosters game. That's what I would love to know more about, and just get a peek behind the curtain. That's my sort of thoughts about coaching. Out
of all the crew there, like, the people I know the least, if at all, would be Steve Price, Josh Hannay, Daniel Holdsworth, Darren Mooney. Like, I know them to say g'day. They know who I am. I know who they are. Whatever. But that's it, right? They do not have the same public persona that Craig Fitzgibbon has. And by that, I mean, they're a lot more business 24/7, whereas Fitzy sort of has to smile sometimes. He has to be a coach that's in the limelight. Those guys have a big say in what we do, and they're not happy a lot of the time, even when we win. So I will also point out that you better not be yelling at Nicole from the morning mashup, no matter what the circumstance.
Nicole will be the first to tell you that she gets nothing wrong, Sam. So there is no reason to yell at my girl, Nicole.
Good. Glad to hear that. Legendary listener, viewer, RCB in Canberra has been in touch.
Oh, another rant about the stadium. What have we got? Is it the speakers this time? No.
I'll find out. We'll find out.
Let's do it.
He did make a great cameo on the post-game show, though. So,
would you be offended if I tell you that I fall asleep to the post-game show?
I think that's beautiful.
Because it's a 5:30. The last couple of games have been 5:30 a.m. on a Saturday, and I certainly am not going to stay up on a Saturday. I'm going to go back to bed. And I'm like, well, what am I going to listen to? So I just chuck on the YouTube, and the sweet sensual sounds of you and Dan and whoever pops up just guides me into a nice sleep where I get to forget about the woes of the last 2 hours.
Yeah, so a lot of fun, that's for sure. We'll keep them going. RCB says, I was thinking, why were they so flat? Dan was right about the attitude. It sucks. Every time you think maybe they've developed a bit of an edge, they remind you who they really are. There's a lack of steel and edge in the club. To lose that badly to a team missing 5 players, whilst we have none as far as rep players missing. That would never happen under Craig Bellamy. It would never happen in 2016. Tedesco stood up, took the game, played brilliantly. He's a winner. He demands excellence. We don't have a player close to his class in the spine. Where do you rate the season so far? He's giving it a C-.
Okay. Harsh judge, that's fine.
I think you and I are a bit higher than that.
Definitely.
Are you happy? Do you think we shift out of this mindset where there's an opportunity to be taken, we leave it on the table? Fundamentally, I'm starting to come around to the belief this squad as a whole has been overrated by the people within the club who make decisions. Not to say the players we have let go are any better, but I think the core jet crew, as Nick Campton would call it, has a ceiling that many of them have reached or seem unable to go further. So a lot to unpack there from the great RCB. Let's start with, we've talked about the Tedesco and the fact that none of our guys did that, right? So we've talked about that. Let's talk about ratings.
Yep. And also not enough about Radley as well. I feel like that a lot of credit needs to go to Radley in that Roosters game. Him and Tedesco really just took hold of that team and marched them in the first half, at least.
You can definitely throw him in. So RCB saying C- after round 12. What are you saying in that term? Just to match.
Okay. What's technically a pass mark? Is a B or an A? I wouldn't say.
You're the smart one out of the two of us, Ben.
Oh, I don't know. Let's say B. I'd say B+. I don't think it's an A. I think that despite the highs that we've had, there's still a couple of glaring disappointments there. So I can't say A or A-. I'd say B+. I think a pass mark where we're certainly not awful, but there is disappointments and there's room to improve, and we're not at the tippy top of what we should be. Yeah. So in RCB terms, I'm going to say a B+.
Yeah, I would go as low as a B-.
Okay.
I don't think I could throw in any C's, to be honest.
I don't think so.
Well, he says, are you happier? I mean, I'm reasonably happy. I'm not happy because there's at least, I would say at least 3 wins we should have had. I think Bulldogs, you know what? I think most of the losses we should have won. I mean, the Roosters won, we weren't even close, but in theory, we should have won. Like we're the better. We think we have the better team. So I'm not happy in that sense. But week to week, I'm okay. Like I'm close to happy. I don't know what's just under happy, but maybe just unhappy is B-. But Yeah, that's where I'm at. B-, I think.
Yeah, I think again, ask me 15 minutes into the Warriors game, and I will give you a better sense of where my thoughts are. But yeah, I am cautiously optimistic. RCB.
What about his point on the current crew? Do you think the current crew we have is good enough in the next year or two to do something special?
This year, I think so. I think that like we're looking at, with all respect to the Bulldogs, who I thought last year could have probably made the grand final, because I was a big fan of them running into the end of the season. You look at the spine of the Bulldogs and how good that their gameplay is, and I think they're going to drop off, because I've done the old nerdy ladder predictor, and they've got a real tough end to the season. I don't know how this Galvin thing is going to turn out for them. Also very hard when their GM is owned by Mr. Chamis, but again, I don't want to be too pro Chamis, because my loyalty lies with Riccio.
There's so much to take away from what you just said. You've already done the ladder prediction.
I know. Oh yeah, I had to do that. But I would say that this year, I think that like any of the goodish teams can really make a run for it. Again, it's just frustrating, because on our day we can beat the Storm even if we're down players and really get up for it. And RCB has been the one on the message boards and on social media that has really been putting it out there of, why do we have the big win? And then there's always the inevitable. The next game is like back to reality. That's annoying.
That's a great question. Great question.
Yeah, and he's been the one that's been asking in the last week and a half, and I think that's fair enough. So
how much of the stadium does he blame in that argument?
Yeah, if the speakers were taken down, maybe it would be a B+ season for him. We don't know.
Now on
he never goes to the stadium, so he might not know. But who knows? That's why we love RCB.
Fired. That's your shot fired. On the Chamis Riccio situation, is Riccio annoyed because you're giving praise to someone else? Is that the point?
I think he's just a bit jealous. He slid into my DMs on Twitter and just wanted to make sure that he was still my number one guy, and he is. He absolutely is. Big Riccio fan, and looking forward to catching up with him because we didn't get a huge chance to do so in Vegas. Can I ask what you think in terms of, and I'll use air quotes, the Jets crew, and like, have they reached their peak? Is there another level that they can go to? Do you think that there's, do you agree with RCB in that?
I don't know is my answer. I think that players can always do better than what they're doing. Like, I don't think any of them have a line through them as far as they've peaked. That's my first reaction to that. And I listen to the NRL Boom Rookies a lot. I've never heard them referred to as the Jets crew. And I think it's a little bit disrespectful in the sense of, a bunch of them have played 50 to 100 games now in the NRL. That's a great achievement. And I like what they're doing. Like, I think that, I don't know if Teague Wilton's in that crew, but look at Teague Wilton, and we haven't seen him much lately. But, fantastic young player with the world at his feet. If he gets it right, if it all connects, he could reach the Origin level easily. He could potentially captain New South Wales if everything fell into place in 5 years' time. I don't know. I think that for the older fellas, and he's not old by any means in the game of football, but he's sort of 26 or something, like a Will Kennedy, or, there's probably a debate there about, can they get any better than what they're doing?
Yep.
But I don't think any of them are really playing week to week poorly. I know people are out for Ramian at the moment, and I get that. He hasn't been in great form, but he was one of our best players last year, so I'm willing to sort of give him a bit more time. But I would say that they can do more. Yes. I would think that and I think that if someone like Craig Fitzgibbon and all the people he works with think that they're the guys to move forward with, I don't have a problem with that at the moment, because like I often say, it's not like, for me personally, it's not like the coach has done that much wrong where you're just judging every decision. Well, we've had guys in the past where you do that, and there are NRL coaches now. Like, imagine if you were, a Knights fan or a Cowboys fan, you'd be questioning every little thing. But for me personally, at the moment, I don't have that doubt in the coach, and it's not blind love. I don't agree with everything. I've already said I don't agree with the Atkinson thing, but if he thinks that Blake Brayley is the hooker for the next 5 years, at the moment, I'm like, yeah, I can see that. There's not much I really see a problem with. It doesn't mean if someone better comes on the market, we can't look at them. Like, I'm happy to swap someone around if someone better's there. So, yeah.
Well, the other thing
one.
that, sorry, we're spending a lot of time on RCB's email, but he did bring us a lot of points. He mentioned in terms of like keeping that crew together, and there were certain people that we've had to let go or whatever. Is there anyone that, like, if you could pick one that's like the one shining person that we let go or couldn't keep or got signed away, like, is it Jack Williams? Is it Metcalf? Is it who else is there? Is it Royce Hunt? Like, is there anyone that really comes to mind for you?
I think as long as everyone keeps doing their job, I won't have a problem with it. So if Luke Metcalf wins the comp, but Trindle and Hines have a great year, I'll be like, well, good luck to the guy. Like, that's fine. I think if we came 15th and we had the worst halves in the comp, then I'd absolutely regret it. You know what I mean? But at the moment, not really. Metcalf's leading the Dally M's, having a great year. He's always had potential. Would he work with a Nico Hines? Would he work with a Trindle? Would they gel correctly? I don't know. So I'm not really regretting him at the moment. I think Jack Williams, if we could have signed him for the amount of money we wanted to sign him for and given him the extra year or whatever, I think he's always going to be of value. Like, you know what you're getting and you know what you're not getting. And the pros outweigh the cons. And this year he's having a terrific year. He's still doing some things that I'd call negative, but he's also playing his heart out and he's pretty good. I think the Royce decision was the right one. So, I mean, at the moment, no. My answer is no, Ben. There's no one really. The Metcalf one is interesting, though, because if our guys in the halves are inconsistent for the rest of the year, and I think this year they've been pretty good, especially Nico, but, if they just sort of hit the straight line and just don't go up anymore, that'd be an interesting one if he keeps rising.
Yeah, it'd be an interesting discussion to have at the end of the season. But I probably agree with you. There isn't anyone. There's no standouts that I go, really could have kept that guy.
No.
Anyway,
I mean, if you look at the Warriors, the Warriors are they fourth? They're top four. We're in fifth. Yep. Like, it's not like we're having such a worse season than them. Like, we're kind of close. We're in that mix, and I know they're playing better. I'm not suggesting they're not, but I mean, I see it online every day. We should have kept this guy. Should have kept that. Yeah, we all see that, and that's cool. They're not wrong thoughts. They're just, I don't go there myself.
Yep.
John said, disappointing night, but we move on.
We agree.
2 observations. John. Twice this year we've been ambushed with rush defense. Sorry, my English has gone out the window. And very deliberate attacking plays, i.e. the Dogs and the Roosters. Depth is really tested as well. 4 missing outside backs, 3 first 17 forwards, plus a couple playing injured. The bye will help. Thanks. That's from John. I mean, we need to start better. That's for sure.
Yeah, the old ambushes. The old ambushes aren't fun.
Yeah, it's not a. We don't come back that great. We definitely have in the Fitzgibbon era, but the stat this year is we haven't lost when we're leading at halftime, and we haven't won when we're losing. So,
I had a tiny bit of hope when it was pointed out how bad the last 20 minutes for the Roosters are, and then we had a couple of opportunities, and I was like, "Oh, okay, here we go. Let's the Bulldogs game against Roosters. This is what we're gonna just at least make a game of it." Just couldn't put it together. But yeah, need to be faster starters. Which is funny to say when you just gave the stat that we never come back when we're losing at halftime. So we're obviously doing something right in the first half, but it's like, I don't know. That's classic Cronulla. First 15 minutes.
There's examples of the Melbourne game the other week where we actually didn't start that well in the first 5 or 10.
Yep.
But then came back, had the lead at halftime,
and really did well to regain the momentum when it was sort of falling away from us. That's what makes the Storm game so puzzling, because that was the perfect example of being down on troops, fighting against momentum going against us, fighting against the 5 minutes of insanity from Kennedy that got them back in the game, and we finished and we won. So that's what makes the Roosters game so frustrating.
What was your situation for that game? What time was it there? Where were you watching, etc.? Melbourne game.
5:30 a.m. Saturday game. So, yeah, they're not my favorites.
Did the atmosphere come across?
Yes, very much so.
Awesome.
Yeah, you could tell that the crowd were up for it in the sense that, like, the comment is always it can be a bit of a graveyard crowd wise for the old Shark Park at times, but that one, it came across. You could tell that everyone was up for it.
Roger has been in touch.
Hi, Roger.
I'm doing this now. I'm doing the pause so you can do the Ben hello.
You know
the
what?
Ben hellos, it's very nice.
That's good radio. I'd like to make that my trademark. That these people are nice enough to listen and nice enough to email in. I want to say hello and thank them for their contribution.
Absolutely. Unlike every other guest co-host who just talks over them and doesn't say hello, doesn't even acknowledge them, but Ben Harlum knows what he's doing. So from Roger, although I was gutted by the results, I think it's a testament to the NRL competition. Unpredictable results, especially last weekend. We saw that wins off the back of momentum. First half football cost the Sharks dearly. They clearly had a day off. And although they were trying hard to get back in the game, the enthusiasm and energy of the Roosters caused the Sharks too many mistakes. And they capitalized on it. There's also some refereeing decisions that Roger wasn't happy with. In hindsight, blooding some new faces may have been the way to go.
Yep.
But he thinks that Fitzy and his coaching staff will come back stronger from the loss. The win against the Storm was unbelievable. And I know your Friday Night Lights teaser prior to kickoff was no doubt listened to by the team, which resulted in a win for the ages. I think we need a motivational teaser on the bye weekend, as the loss will be forgotten in no time. Come on, Sharks fans, let's do this. Support our great team and let them know we support them. Let's turn it around against the Warriors. Warm regards from Roger. Thanks, Roger. I'm glad you liked the Friday Night Lights teaser. My friend Ben here on his show had the great Connie Britton.
I did, yes. And I don't think it's a coincidence that as soon as I sent you a message to say that your girl Connie Britton was appearing on my show, Ben Plus One, that I just conveniently get another invite to come back onto the SharkCast. Yes.
You've seen right through me.
Yeah, I have. I do. I can't disagree with anything that Roger said. And it goes back to level-headed Ben at the start of the show when you asked me about my thoughts on the Roosters game. We're pretty much in is it lockstep? Is that lockstep?
Sure.
Whatever that word is, you know what I'm trying to say. I agree with Roger. There's lots of little things that we can nitpick, and maybe blooding some rookies is fair. Maybe the refereeing wasn't amazing, but I don't think that you can really dwell on them and say that is why we lost.
I have to say the refereeing against the Melbourne game was really not good for Cronulla, and they overcame that. So it can't ever really be an excuse.
No, and that was what was so fascinating. Like I said earlier, that last 50 minutes, there was no set restarts in the Melbourne game. It was, hey, these guys are playing flawless football. Congratulations. And like you saw it there, you could hear the crowd. They're not like the annoying Brookvale or Cowboys fans that are just booing for the sake of booing. You could see what Melbourne were doing, and it was unbelievable that we weren't getting some of the calls that we really should have. And then again, no set restarts, lots of penalties, and dubious decisions in the Roosters game. But as you just said, you can't really. It wasn't a Ashley Klein special that I like to call them. These were just things that we should be able to overcome, and we did a couple of weeks ago, and we didn't last week.
The most annoying thing for me is when you look at the count of the penalty at the end of the game, and we won the penalty count against the Roosters. It's like, come on, man. That's ridiculous. I know what you're doing here. I know.
Yes. Yeah. It was like the Roosters of 2013 have come to play, where like, let's give away those penalties and that was the reason why the set restarts came in, because of sides like them back in the day. I am aware 6 years later it took for the 6 again rule to come in. I digress. Next email, Sam.
This is from Mitch.
Hi, Mitch. Great to hear from you.
Mitch said, The Roosters was the first game I've missed in a long, long time because I was lucky enough to score a last-minute ticket to see Sigur Rós at the Opera House with the Sydney Symphony on Saturday. Like when a tree falls in the woods and there's no one around to hear it, if I never watch the replay or any highlights from the weekend, it never happened.
That's right.
I'm a sicko if I go back and watch that game. That's from Mitch. First of all, I hope I'm sure Sigur Rós were unbelievable. I know that Dr. Cameron Webb and Clinton Maynard were out there watching Sigur Rós. If you don't know who they are, they're an amazing, I think mainly instrumental band, world-renowned and just a very powerful kind of band. And they played at the Opera House. Mitch, I'm with you. Don't go back and watch the game. There's not much you're going to get out of it.
I will say, Mitch, that, our friend Clevo, he has a dangerous habit of always going to concerts that just conveniently be on the same time as Sharks games that I've discovered in the last couple of years of knowing him. And also, after 6 or 7 years living in New York and having to wake up at the crack of dawn to watch the Sharks, there are just some games that it's just better to sleep in, check the result, and if they win, watch the replay. And if they didn't win, pretend like it never happened. I appreciate the dedication, Mitch.
Now, if you go back and check the video, Ben, I had a little chuckle before because while I'm checking my email, an email came in from Priscilla. And Priscilla is one of these people that wants to make our YouTube better. Just to follow up on the last message, you got a lot of untapped potential. I can help you out, yada, 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 which is lovely from Priscilla. But I do get a lot of those. They're borderline spam bot kind of things. I'm sure I know people do it for real. But
Yes.
these ones are a bit more on the, you haven't checked out my thing. You don't know what you're doing. But I will say for people listening and watching, if you would like to subscribe to our YouTube channel, that would be a big help because it's only a new thing. And if you want to do that, that's great. But what do you got? You got words for Priscilla?
Priscilla, I appreciate your enthusiasm. I don't think you're a genuine person.
Yeah.
I also don't think RCB is a genuine person. So you can fall into that bucket with him.
I'm not going to touch that, but I'm going to tell you about our good friend Jason Hawes at Crips and Crips Real Estate, who is a real person.
Genuine person, big fan.
Yes, I know him personally, and he was in Vegas hanging out with his family and friends, having a good time. And I've said this before on the show, Ben, but the infamous SharkCast party, which you missed because you were doing a lot more important things, which is hard to believe given how important that was, but it actually was more important. We had 3 of the best real estate people in the business in the one pub. We had our own Jason Hawes.
Yes.
We had listener of the show, Fraser Glenn, and we had my, I guess, lifelong friend who I've known forever because he's lifelong, Justin Wrestler, all in the one building. Massive SharkCast fans. It was like, are you guys here to sell houses or drink and talk about the Sharks? But it was the latter. But I'm ruining Jason's little promo here. If you want to talk about real estate with anyone, get in touch with Jason Hawes, Crips and Crips Real Estate, 0410-417-450. He's a great man, great human, very honest. We trust him, and we encourage you to trust him too. Any questions at all, get in touch with Jason Hawes. No matter how big or small the question or issue or problem may be, Jason will endeavor to help you out as best he can. Great fella, great human. Now,
thanks, Jason. Appreciate your support. Sorry I didn't see you in Vegas.
Yeah. We're going to cross over some platforms here. This is where it gets a little bit tricky and doing it on the fly, but we'll give it a good shot.
Okay.
We'll give it a good shot. Now, here we go. There's a lot of people sort of liking things. That's always great. Our friend Smitty said, very disappointed, terrible game all round, which we have to acknowledge. So definitely we'll acknowledge that. Tate Sek said, I reckon Ronaldo, we haven't talked about this, Ronaldo got off lightly. I can't believe we got dominated by that team. Sifa, AFB, and Iro were the only players worthy of a match payment. I don't understand why we're always a team that seems to struggle against lesser opposition but beat the big teams. Cheers. That's from Tate. Let's talk about Ronaldo. So he misses a week. Ben, do you think that's fair? Do you think it's justified? Talk to me about Ronaldo and missing a week.
Is there an I in that Tate, or is there a E
Yep.
in that Tate? That'd be my friend
Taite.
Tate. Yes, big fan of Tate. He and I have become good mates. He's a fellow Jersey guy.
Right, one of those guys.
I saw a bit of conjecture on Twitter about Ronaldo being lucky that he got away with just the 1 week for the early guilty plea. I think that's pretty fair. Someone wanted to try and compare it to the Suoliti Reece Walsh hit in Origin 1 last year, which I thought was an interesting but probably incorrect comparison. I know. I think one it would have been very disappointing if they decided to fight it. Maybe someone thought, oh, look, we've got no outside backs for the next couple of weeks. Let's try and get him off. And obviously that would have been a terrible waste of money and resources to lawyers. I think that 1 week was perfectly fine. And the sin bin was perfectly fine.
And talk to me about how he's been going with the antics and his general vibe. You happy with how he's going?
I preferred it against... It was Manly when he didn't start the fight, but he certainly ended the proverbial fight. I prefer Ronaldo when someone wants to try and challenge him and he gets the final say. That is my preferred Ronaldo. But as was mentioned in previous episodes of the SharkCast, like you look at he was bashed by Pappenhausen in the last few seconds of the Storm game, and if it was any longer, I think Kieran said that he would have the cleanest player in the game in Pappenhausen would have been sent for 10 minutes. So that's how much he got under the skin. That is the beauty of Ronaldo. When it works, and it worked a couple of weeks in a row, which is fantastic. I have no issue with it. Again, I would love to see him run out for Queensland tomorrow morning my time, because he's a perfect Queensland Origin player. I have no issue with it. I have different issues just in general, and also with Ronaldo and how the backs are going, and I don't mind the arcing up. That's fine. You need someone.
Kickoff for Origin for you is it 6 a.m.?
Yeah, 6 a.m. Wednesday, which means I have to get to work a bit early because I'm going to watch it from work. Otherwise, I miss a bit trying to get to work halfway through. It's not my favorite time slot. I also really loved when we had the one Sunday game because I could actually watch it at home on a Sunday. That was really nice, but obviously that's no longer a thing. So the 6 a.m. Wednesday, not the best, not the worst.
Because your show is 9 to 12, is that right?
No, it's 7 till 12. But you almost got there. 7 till 10, and then we're replayed straight after. So I get the first hour I get by myself, and the second hour I much like the beautiful Cronulla Sharks against the Roosters, I clock off and I don't focus on the work at hand because the Fox Soccer Plus channel is on in the studio.
Soccer. All right. Next up, we have Sladen, who you may know from a forum or two. He said, thanks for all you're doing. Bring sanity to my weeks. AFB is Godzilla. What a player. He's brought so much to this team, not just mongrel, but toughness. He's very polite and respectful when interviewed, but he cannot be stopped. The game of the weekend showed his power. And he's coming down for the Warriors game. Not sure where Sladen is, but he'll be at the Hairy Man's before. So we're going to take you there. I know you've been there before, Ben, but we'll take you to the Hairy Man's before games. We're going to start doing some pre-game kind of things, and we'll be at the Warriors game for sure, hanging out. So Sladen will be there. Ben will be there at a later date, which we'll talk about. Wade says, terrible performance all round. The bye has come 1 week too late, but at least we can all rest now. That's from Wade.
Yep, fair enough, Wade.
What else have we got here? A bit of love for Royce Hunt. So I don't know if you're across it, but Royce was entangled in a bit of social media controversy because there was a video of a guy or two at an airport trying to get West Tigers selfies and photo and autographs and stuff. And they were a little bit cheeky with him. And the video happened to show Royce about to dig into a hamburger or something, which he's known to do, and it probably wasn't the best moment for a selfie. And there was a bit of criticism about all of them, including Royce. And then there's been a lot of love for him because he is genuinely one of the nicest people in the world, does a lot for a lot of people. And this is from Craig. Craig said, I couldn't agree more with the sentiments for Royce. He was the last player signing autographs every year in Coffs Harbour. Usually a staff member had to come and drag him into the dressing room. So some love for there, and we love him on the show. He's done a lot for our listeners off air, which a lot of people don't know about. He's just a really charitable human being, Royce Hunt. Have you met Royce at all?
I haven't. I saw a social media post in the last couple of days. He either rocked up to a young fan's house or something like that.
Yes.
What a great gesture. And from my experience, in particular, interviewing wrestlers from AEW and WWE, there's one thing you don't want to do as a fan, and that is harass famous people at the airport, because there is nothing worse in their eyes. So, yes, I don't think the West Tigers players, they can be guilty of a lot of things, but they can't be guilty of that, I think, especially when you're eating.
The wrestler thing is interesting because they do a lot of long haul flights, and they go to places maybe once a year, once every 5 years, and the fans are so hardcore, they want to meet their heroes. And so where's the best place? Oh, well, when they step off the airport, they're like anyone else. They've got to walk through this bit and this bit. And it's become a very well-known thing over the last, 30 years. And most of them aren't very happy about that, and for pretty good reason. I mean, there's no reason to be rude, but also, and a lot of these people also are people who sell things on eBay and that kind of thing. They're not even genuine.
That's the main thing, is that the wrestlers that I've spoken to, if they can see that it's like a young fan or a regular aged fan that is obviously quite emotional at meeting them and would like a photo or a selfie or something or an autograph, that's perfectly fine. But it's the 10 people that drag along, either they're using their kids or they're using their elderly parents, and they've got all of the 8x4s with a blue texter because they're easy to copy if you sign with the blue texter. That's when it gets a bit, hey, come to an autograph signing. Don't wait outside the airport after I just had 3 connecting flights to get home to try and see my family for the first time in a week.
Yeah, it's common sense, isn't it? And I mean, I'm telling this story just because I can, and it's not me being a head swell or anything, but a lot of our listeners know I got to go into the sheds after the Newcastle game up in Newcastle about a month ago with my son Jester, and it was amazing. And we took a lot of photos, and they were everyone was extremely nice. And we got to the King of Carrying bar, and he was sitting in his little spot, and he had his pink sort of skins on, and that was kind of it, And so we went up and said g'day, and he was really nice and high-fived my kid and everything. But I sort of said to Chester as we walked up to him, I said, we weren't asking for a photo because he's not wearing much, and even though I think that he would probably do it, I said, we're going to give him that kind of, and Chester went, yeah, okay. And he didn't really understand. He just went, yeah, okay, no worries. We took selfies with 8 other people. That was my kind of wrestler moment. I was like, even I'm a huge fan, Nico. I'm not going to ask him to take a picture while he's not wearing much. And anyway, aren't I awesome, Ben? Don't I have morals? No, I don't.
Well, that's because you go outside the Royal Motorboat Club or Yacht Club at Port Hacking, and you are bombarded with people that are asking you to sign 8x4s with blue Sharpies, and that's why that you understand the position that they're in.
If only. Josh was in touch. Josh, you might have met Josh in Vegas as well. Different Josh to our Josh, but
okay.
I think he's from up in Queensland way. And he's a Jersey guy, and he wants to know any chance
Good Jersey guy.
The New Jersey, which has been hinted at by a lot of people, will be ready for round 16 against the Broncos. I'd love to rep it at Suncorp. Now, I'm up to date with release dates. I know today, I think they're showing it online. I don't know if that means it's available real soon, but do you have any?
From what I could see, official good girl Ash,
yes,
who runs a tight ship at the Shark store, and is a good follow on Twitter. Just before we started, she was teasing that the reveal was coming, so it could be happening right now, Sam. Like by the time that this episode is up, I would assume that it is out. And one thing that I will give credit to the club for, I mean, I give credit to the club for a lot of things. Feels like I've been very negative this episode, but that compared to previous years with the merch, in fact, that when we announce something, the merch seems to be available. When they have the retro jacket and you're wearing it with Gaz in your interview, it's on the store and ready to go. I'm going to assume that since I think they're wearing it for the Warriors game, that it will be ready for the Broncos game.
Now that makes sense because it is a Pacifica jersey. We can say that.
And when you spoke to Adam on the podcast, I believe he teased that round as the round for the special jersey.
Beautiful.
See, I do listen.
Beautiful, yes. And I have seen the full item, and it looks amazing. All right. Yeah, it looks really good.
Way to bury the lead.
Well, I didn't say what it looks like. It's just it's really good.
If you've got some inside information, I would have expected you to share it, Sam.
I don't think I'm allowed to. Gary just shows me things, and I go, "Oh, that's exciting!" And
don't worry, Gary. I'll just drag you underneath the bus.
Well, he's waiting for his Katy Perry freebies.
Hey, he didn't come to the Katy Perry unofficial meet and greet in Vegas.
Not invited.
No, he wasn't invited.
He was waiting for El McPherson. He chose El McPherson instead. Pacifica jersey, it looked incredible. I mean, I'm a middle of the road jersey guy. You guys are elite. There are people who don't care. I'm in the middle. I like jerseys. But that'll be on my gravestone, in 50 years. I like jerseys.
Yep. OG.
Kieran will be like, Kieran will be drinking by the side going, he didn't like jerseys. He's full of, he didn't like jerseys. Anyway, enough about my death. Touch wood. Pacifica jersey looks really good. And it reminded me of, and I could be completely wrong here, but when I had a look at it, reminded me of the Hoops jersey with the Pacifica twist. And it looked really, really cool. Yeah, so I'm sure that'll do well for him. And I love the sentiment behind it as well. So it'll mean a lot to the players. And at this point, after that win, after that loss, anything's going to help. So next up, we have Brent. And Brent writes to us most weeks. He's usually happier after a win. He's not happy after a loss. And he says, another typical Sharks performance. They won't be contenders until we prove ourselves. And at this point, we proved where we stand. We let the top four get away from us. We couldn't beat a New South Wales Cup team. Hiroti and Ramian shouldn't have played. Stupid coaching decision. Prefer Tuku over Atkinson. He doesn't think we'll be finishing in the top four. They looked embarrassing, and it was disappointing, letting the fans down. The yearly joke about can we beat the bye, which is what everyone says after we lose going into the bye. And he's very insistent that we beat the Dragons coming up in a little while too, which I think we all are.
Yeah,
but he does finish with an up, so that's some positivity there. But what do you think about not finishing top four?
Well, lucky in my preparation for today's episode, I did do the nerdy ladder predictor. I'm normally pretty even in terms of awarding Sharks wins and losses. Again, I would like to point out that I did point out in my first episode with you, Sam, that the Warriors game last year was a very big danger game, and I was not confident in them winning, and look what happened.
The second time you've done that in half an hour.
Yes, I just would like to bring the receipts just to show you, because you trashed that opinion very quickly. Anyway, moving on, Sam. I think that here's a controversial opinion for you. I think the final round, according to my ladder predictor...
Don't say it. No, don't say it.
Sharks versus Bulldogs is going to be for fourth spot. I'm sorry. That's what's going to happen.
Are the Bulldogs minor premiers and not playing their pplayers?
No, they are on the same points. I said a bit before. I think the Bulldogs, they've got a very tough run to the finals, and I think that they're going to drop a couple games, and so it is going to be whoever wins that game will get fourth. And
this doesn't bode well.
Storm week one.
I don't like this.
So make of that what you will.
I don't like it. I don't care for it.
Where do you think we're going to finish? Or give me what you think the top four is going to look like at the end of the season, Sam? That should be easy.
Oh yeah, that'll be really easy. I haven't done any studying
Well,
on it, but
okay, so you've got Storm, Raiders, Warriors, Bulldogs,
yeah,
Sharks.
yeah. I think the Storm will be there. I think the Bulldogs will be there, just pure mathematics.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the two. I think Canberra or probably the Warriors might fall, and I think Canberra will probably be there. And I'm hoping we'll be in the. We might be fourth the way we're going.
Yeah,
winning 3, losing 1 kind of thing.
Would you
There's
rather
a long way to go.
week 1 of the finals 1v4 Sharks Storm or 5v8 Sharks Panthers?
Oh, jeez. The first one for the second chance opportunity.
Yep. Okay.
I'm interested in this scenario though. Bulldog Sharks for the top 4 at Bulldog Stadium with a billion people going bonkers. That's a huge test.
Yeah, it is at the Olympic Park. It's not at Belmore, so it'll be a big game. Yeah, that's how it all panned out in my ladder predictor. So it'll be interesting to see how that happens.
Well, I know Clinton Maynard is listening, and he is a huge ladder predictor guy as well. So he will be able to.
I love a fellow radio guy that loves the ladder predictor.
Right. So do I. Must be a thing. You're in radio and you like ladder predictors.
Yeah. It's good just to get a gauge of where to go. Anyway.
Steve has been in touch.
Hi, Steve. Great to hear from you.
From a great week to an embarrassing week. Losing to a depleted New South Wales Cup side, that's getting thrown around a lot. I think that's a bit dramatic.
I think so too, but yes, it is being thrown around a lot.
It's just not good enough. There needs to be changes or bring in somebody who knows about, and I don't want to say these words, a winning culture. They just send shivers up my spine.
Winning culture.
I want to see a more reliable team, consistent, that can string wins together. So just on that, Steve, we had won 3 in a row and 6 of the past 7. So let's not lose sight of where we came from. I'm not talking down what you're saying because I agree. We should have won and it should have been just another win. I completely agree. But let's not lose sight of how the team has been going.
Is there even a consistent side in the comp this year? Like, I don't even think Melbourne are consistent this year.
Probably just the Bulldogs. That'd be it.
But even then, they lost to Brisbane, right? They had the comeback games. Like, I feel like
comeback games, yeah.
You can't really call that consistent. Anyway, keep going.
The Warriors won't be easy.
Correct.
Potentially a defib game.
What's a defib? Like a heart
defibrillator.
Like a heart stopper.
Yep. As a Sharks fan, we know you've got one in your house somewhere.
You have to.
Steve would be bringing in Chris Vela as a winger center. And he says Atkinson did nothing on the bench. Tuku would have been more impactful than him. He does say rest up and come back with a win. Forever Sharks. So Steve's on board. He's just feeling it. He's feeling the loss, which I respect.
Yeah, we're all disappointed.
Are you rushing in Chris Vela? I know we're not privy to the team yet, but
I can't say that I've seen a lot of him in New South Wales Cup, but I've read reports that say that he's pretty good and sort of next man up in terms of our future in the backs. In hindsight, probably the Roosters game was the right game to blood him and get him in there and see what he could do.
He's not short of height.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, maybe in hindsight. It all depends on how everybody's injuries are, how Sione comes back, whether we need to give him an extra week. I don't know. What is it, Warriors? Who do we have after the Warriors, Sam?
I can do a little quick look for you. We're at home.
That's
I know
fine.
that. We can do it on the fly. This is what we do. It's
Okay, I'll keep
your
talking while
daily
you look.
job, isn't it?
That's true. Yeah, I'm not sure if the Warriors is the game for that, considering their strengths in the outside backs. You probably want someone that's going to be a bit more comfortable there. Yeah, that's probably one of the bigger missed opportunities not to blood him last week.
All right. Well, we want to thank Steve for being in touch. I also want to, before we get into the draw, let's talk about the last bit of mail from Susie. It's from Susie.
Okay, Susie, not a bot, genuine person.
Yeah, absolutely. She's from Melbourne or lives in Melbourne.
Love that,
said, perhaps the team needs to practice, and she's got in inverted commas, air quotes, marks, like in the AFL. The Storm do well because they practice with AFL players, so catching the high balls.
Yep.
She says, I cringed during the recent game against the Roosters. I tried to work out if it was the wet weather, but no, it was just a thing. So that's from Susie in Melbourne. I think there's merit in that. I don't know if every team has access to AFL players like Melbourne probably do, but it can't hurt.
My counter to Susie would be I'm totally on board with the general sentiment, but I feel like that we need to be practicing our defense to such marks. We don't have super tall, lanky wingers at the Coates and the Tupou sort of realm that can really nail them, even though Ronnie is pretty good at getting up there most of the time. But I think that some of the missed opportunities that we've had, especially in that Roosters game, was how do we push the envelope just enough that we are either putting pressure on the kicker or we're not escorting, but we're escorting, or you've got a couple people up there to try and put the Coates and the Tupous of the world off. The defense of the marks would be something that I would hope that we put lots of attention on.
Yeah, that's super wise, Benny. I mean, the Coates one was just a freak thing because he's twice the size of Dan Atkinson. Like, you can't stop that. If that was against Ronaldo or someone else, it may not have been the same result. However, the Tupu ones, the first one was just not defended by anyone. Hiroti couldn't get up there. Ramian was miles away from shadowing him and shepherding him in. So he had a clear shot. And the second one, it looked like there was more effort, but it just wasn't the case. But I'm with you. I think that, and the other thing is, a lot of the time, historically, our guys give away penalties for that kind of thing. The
disruptor rule was exclusively Cronulla last year.
Yes. So we do that quite a bit, which is also costly in different ways.
Yes.
So I'd be working on that. You guys and girls know I'm not a fan of the Stone Street up in the air catch. So I'd be working on that kind of thing, kick defense, which is part of what Susie's talking about. And they do work on it. Like, I'm not suggesting they don't work on it, but it might become a focus because in the last month we've conceded them all of our tries pretty much have been from kicks, the important ones at least, not the blowout ones, but the important ones. So I'm sure there's some work going on in the bye week, especially once they're back at training. So thanks to everyone who's been in touch. Yes, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. I will echo Sam's thanks since I rudely interrupted him, thanking you guys for sending mail. You are obviously more privy to lots of stuff that happens in training as compared to me, because obviously I have no access to training here in New York. Is there ever like a referee there? You know how we saw DCE with Ashley Klein, and then there was talks of there was a couple of refs with the Blues in camp. Do you ever see an NRL ref there, or an ex-ref, or someone there that can help in terms of that pushing the envelope? Okay, at this point we would call the penalty, but you're fine up until this point. Do you ever see that behind the scenes?
So the main referee is a fellow called Mark Noakes, who we'll know as trainer, runner, and does a lot more for the team, of course. And in all seriousness, he does run the show a lot, and he runs it like a referee, and he does things where you see them do specialized plays and defensive plays and penalties and that sort of stuff. They do it as if he was a referee.
Okay.
To answer your question, though, I have seen it. It's usually pre-season. I think there might have been times in the past leading up to, finals and big games, I'd say prior to Fitzgibbon, where someone has come in, but generally no. Generally,
Okay.
no. I know that in the past, was it Bill Harrigan? Someone was employed. Oh, teams have had people employed.
Gavin Badger was employed
Gavin
by
Badger,
the Tigers.
the Tigers, yeah. So people have done it. To my knowledge, it's never been a regular thing at Cronulla ever. But definitely pre-season, they've had people come in, especially with new rules. So they'll come in and you'll have a referee do a game between the two team, between the A team and the B team, and it'll be like, guys, you've got to work out how to not hold the player down. Like they do it sort of once a year. So yeah.
I don't know how much of a impact that would have, but when I mentioned the disruptor and how it just seemed like Cronulla only got disruptor penalties against us and no other team was privy to that rule. I don't know if that's something that helps, especially when you see teams that are so good at pushing the envelope. And that's probably what separates Sharks to the Penrith and the Melbourne. There's obviously other ways that they are separated, but the way that they can just get away with enough, I don't know. What is that edge? Who is the person you can bring in to really rule on that?
I mean, without being smart, being smart, you look at when Badger was at the Tigers, they had no success. So it doesn't translate, 100%. So but
totally
interesting
understand.
thought. Just on the draw, Ben, I've got the draw up here. So Saturday week, the 7th of June, 5:30 p.m. at Shark Stadium, we play the Warriors, which we've talked about. Yes. And then we do have another game, a beautiful game, and a game you'll be in the house for, all being well. And that is the local derby. Oh man, my favorite day of the year. Thursday, 12th of June, 7:50 kickoff. And you can expect some SharkCast shenanigans before that for anyone that can get there. And then we go to Suncorp the following Sunday. So pretty good turnaround there. Thursday to Sunday week. We play the Broncos, 2:00 game up at Suncorp.
And that is a post-Origin game for all of the Origin Broncos players as well.
Which is great. And then we have a week's notice to go down to Melbourne. So Suncorp, then Melbourne, and that'll be a huge game on a Sunday, 2:00. Then we have another bye. So if you're looking at this current block, which I'm sure the coach is doing, it's Warriors at home, Dragons at home, Broncos away, Melbourne away. So not the easiest stretch, but 2 home games, beautiful against the, I would say, easier teams out of that lot, although the Warriors are flying high and our record against them recently isn't great. Dragons we should be able to do, and then it's Broncos away. Who knows what you're going to get with that, and then we know what we're going to get against Melbourne in Melbourne. So interesting 4 games coming up. Then the bye. I like the fact it's a month block. That kind of sits well with me.
Much like last year, and the important games that everyone pointed to, which we did really well at, and then we sort of stumbled over the line against Penrith. But before that was really great. This is after everything we just went through with the Roosters, if we are going to shake up this competition and if we're going to be a threat, this is the 4 games that we should be up for, because again, Warriors embarrassed us last year and are playing really well. Dragons is the local game. There should be no reason why we can't get up for that one, especially with Flano coaching and with your best mate playing for them now. And then Brisbane and Melbourne speak for themselves. This is the 4 games where we will know exactly where we stand after that when we get to that second bye.
So from a coaching point of view, I think that Fitzgibbon he'll be annoyed, to put it for our G-rated audience, about the Roosters' performance. I know for a fact he is, and everyone knows that. He's annoyed. And then on the back of that, he would still be annoyed by the Warriors game. In the past 2 home games we played against the Warriors, he would be embarrassed and annoyed. And he's the sort of person that doesn't forget about that stuff. And I know that for a fact.
Great.
So there'll be a driving force there to beat the Warriors, right? Aside from the 2 points and everything else. The Pacific at Jersey, a reason to play that 5% extra for the people that represent that. Local derby, don't need to say too much more on that. I would imagine they will wheel out some old boys during the week
I'd
as
love
well.
that. I think
to
that
kind
would
of
be a
rev 'em
nice
up.
one. Yeah.
They usually do for that kind of thing. So not the official Old Boys Day, but they'll bring in a few just to rev everyone up. And then Brisbane away, Melbourne away, that'll be potentially spotlight games where it's like, I don't know if they've got the edge to do it. I don't know if they've got the halves to do it. So they'll become sort of those personal battles where you need to be up for them and the coach will have you up for them because we're not expected to win those games necessarily. Brisbane, I'd say, would be expected more than the Melbourne game, for example. I think in Melbourne, people would already go, no, they're not going to win that. Even based on last year, even based on this year, for whatever reason, they'll just go, no, they're not mentally tough. So I think there's lots of good reasons, aside from the 2 points, to look forward to these games and be hopeful that there's extra motivation to win them. And I just love that month now. I know, Ben, it's like week off this week, month, week off. It's not some stretch. It's 4 weeks. That's doable.
Yep, 4 weeks, reset in the bye. And then after the second bye, it's time to beat the only team in the comp that we struggle against, especially at home, the good old Dolphins. So the Dolphins, who have now defeated every team in the NRL after only a couple years in the comp. They've beaten everybody, and we haven't beaten them. So let's beat them.
Their halfback is very, very good. Their fullback is very, very good. They're a good team. Look, it's not going to be an easy win. They're a good team, and yeah, we saw it in the flesh. Was it last year or the year before? I think it was last year.
Last year,
yeah, the hammer went nuts. So that'll have motivation. Like everything, I think from here on out, I think the team as a whole are going to amp it up just a little bit from where they've been. And I think you'll see more Melbourne-like performances than the Roosters performances. That's my hope. Based on a whole lot of things. It's not just blind faith, blind hope. But
I only work on blind faith because that's all that I've got, Sam. And I hope that this is the 4 games in a row that we can really get up for and really prove a point after the Roosters game.
Now, we've only got a little bit of time left, but I want to get your thoughts on what you've been doing over there in the crazy world of America. I won't talk about that stuff, but what have you been doing? Where have you been going? What have you been seeing? Tell us about your nightly adventures.
It's been interesting. We've had different sort of to peel back the curtain or whatever they say. It's an interesting time because a lot of our guests that come into the radio station, you go, oh, what are they coming in for? And it's like, well, they're not really promoting anything. The main thing is like, because they might be a big star in The White Lotus or one of the big TV shows, they sort of are only just in because they want to get their face in front of a lot of people or their voice in front of a lot of people because the like Emmy and Tony nominations are in play. So this is an interesting time where you've got people that come in and they don't have a big movie out or a big TV show or something. It's just because they were in a play or a musical or they were in a big TV show, and this is when all the voters are all voting. So that's an interesting sort of behind the scenes thing I never really knew about until I got here. But then like in terms of music, like things are picking up on the pop side. We've got Gov Ball next weekend, which is the big festival in New York, where you've got Olivia Rodrigo is the real headliner in terms of my world in pop. And then The Weeknd is here. Beyonce was just here last weekend. Who else have we got? Once I get back from seeing you guys, like Oasis are here in September. Like bring it on. Like this is going to be great. AC/DC are touring all around. Music wise, there's lots of great live music happening.
Where is
her tour?
Yeah, I want to talk about that. Where is Oasis playing? Are they at MetLife?
Yes, they're at MetLife and they're doing, I believe, 4 shows?
No.
3 shows.
Oh my God.
They're doing a lot of shows. Maybe I was looking. They're doing like 5 or 6 shows in Wembley, which is unbelievable.
Yeah. I just thought in America, for some reason, it wouldn't be as...
I thought the same thing, but the tickets have been going crazy. So I think they might just be doing 2 or 3 shows in New York, but it's a full-on stadium tour, which is pretty impressive.
Tell us about Kylie. I was blown away that she does arenas. I wasn't up to date with Kylie. Tell us about Kylie.
Yeah, fascinating, right? She hasn't toured like a proper tour in America since 2009, I think it was. And even then, she was playing like small ballrooms and stuff like that. I was really interested. I saw her in Madison Square Garden where she sold out twice, which is impressive in itself.
Yeah.
But proximity, if anyone from Europe was going to come over, obviously large gay audience in New York and LA and Seattle, and San Fran. So those sort of arenas and
Right.
towns you'd sort of expect would have a large contingent there that would want to see Kylie. But like I saw her in Arizona just because I was on the West Coast for WrestleMania. And I was like, who in Phoenix is going to go see Kylie Minogue? Like, I don't think there's a big British and Australian like expat population there, and that's where I obviously fall in. And then I didn't really know like who would go and see Kylie, but it was packed, and so like that's super impressive that she's selling out arenas, and then did 2 nights at Madison Square Garden where like not many people can sell out one night, let alone 2.
That's so good. So good.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool for an Aussie done good. Lots of great live music happening this year, which is good. Like not on a smaller, cooler scale that you're sort of more in tune with, but on the bigger stuff. You're cooler than I in the music.
Don't put me in a corner. I don't like being put in a corner.
Hey, I know that you love a bit of mainstream action as well, but when it comes to the cool stuff, that's where I trust you more than I trust me.
Now, before we let you go, when is Cena going to turn face?
Okay. What are your thoughts? Do you think that it's working so far, or are you indifferent?
I'm indifferent. I think he's doing a good job, but I'm indifferent on him no matter what. So I don't find it believable that a guy who's been supported by every kid for 25 years building his mansions comes out and goes, you never support. Like, I don't buy into that one. I'm sorry. Sorry, Paul Levesque, but I'm not buying that. But he's doing a good job of it. But I do think he has to retire as a face.
And his last match is going to be in Boston, his hometown. So he's going to get cheered anyway.
Yeah.
I would say
it has to be before that though, right?
Yeah, it's going to probably be before that. I would say in between that SummerSlam, maybe like October-ish will be when maybe something happens. Maybe he loses the title or something, or maybe there's involvement from The Rock and he realizes, this just isn't working for me. Let's have that final match against who I'm not sure. I'm not sold on it. I don't think he's very believable. I don't think he's doing a very good job. I thought in the lead up to WrestleMania, I thought things were pretty good. And then the match at WrestleMania, I mean, I was there surrounded by Travis Scott's entourage, which was an annoyance in itself. Trying to watch while they don't have seats. They're just all standing in my area. Great. How fun. You didn't pay an exorbitant amount of money for tickets. Can you at least sit on the floor? Anyway, beside the point. I don't watch every week, but I feel like that I've lost interest in even reading what's happening since WrestleMania. It seems like they've sort of fallen off a cliff a tiny bit. Let's say October. Let's say October, Sam.
Okay. Maybe for the Perth trip. Cena in Perth in October.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'd say it'd be like a post WrestleMania big match. Something will happen, and then in the couple of months, September, October, something will happen there. Yeah.
All right. Well, we thank you for your time, Benny. You're a busy dude. We appreciate your time. We're excited that we'll see you very soon. We'll pretty much just be in your not your DMs, in your communication, just saying, come and hang out. What are you doing? You'll be like, got to work. I'm like, no work. You're in Australia. Let's have some fun. So looking forward to having some fun with you. You'll definitely be on the show throughout that period, whether you like it or not. And we want to say thanks to everyone for tuning in, all the support every week. It's awesome. Appreciate everyone. Can't say it enough. Get in touch with us, subscribe, the whole spiel. I'm not going to do it now because we're running out of time. But Ben, appreciate you, and we will talk to you soon.
Yes, thank you for having me. I always appreciate the invite, especially when it is virtually like this. One final question, as it is 90 seconds before we get to 2 hours. What's the longest podcast episode you've done?
Oh, it's over that. It might be with Clinton Maynard, one of the first ones we did with him, and it's I felt like it was 2:45 or something, and it was a real shock because we went from doing like the hour ones every year, every week, every year, to like, and even I was like, wow, this is pretty crazy, but I'm all for it. It's all good.
Yeah, that's good. If
you're
having fun,
the 2 hour thing is not the platform we're on, but when I take this and put it on the YouTube, it doesn't like it over the 2 hours for whatever reason. So Anyway,
Much like the Super Bowl halftime show, I have a timer that is counting me down like I'm at the Oscars doing a speech, and that's how I know the time, because Sam's like, let's wrap this up.
Let's wrap it up. All right. We'll talk to you soon, Benny. Thanks everyone else for being in touch. Enjoy your bye week. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. Never say never. You'll be hearing from us up Cronulla. Don't worry about last week. We're moving on to next week. Let's bring on that Warriors game. Talk to you all soon.